Alright, everyone, strong people, Coach Allen here, and today we're going to talk about warming up on meet day, but more specifically, warming up and having to adapt your warm-up plan to something that actually fits the flow of the competition. In some circumstances, you might actually have to change the way you've planned your warm-ups because the flow of the meet is just way too fast, or you would actually have to lengthen, the time of your warm-ups or just doing more warm-up sets because you're not really sure when you're actually going to start. It might actually take some longer time. Okay, so I actually have a presentation on how to properly warm up on meet day based on the flow of the competition. So I'm going to attach it in the description. But this lesson more specifically is going to target more so what you should be doing if you're not going to be able to do your original warm-up plan. Okay, so for example, it should take like 30 minutes to warm up, but because of the organization of the meet or something like that, you have to warm up in like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that. I've been in that situation before, in which I thought I was in flight 2 and there were originally 2 flights, and I was within the last ones in flight 2. So they actually mixed and matched both flights in one single flight, and I did not even started warming up when the flight actually started. So I was in a really bad situation that really threw me over because I had a lot of warm-up sets planned and I had to condense everything down in like 3 warm-up sets, and I just did not feel good. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of options that you might actually have to make an easier, some easier decisions from that perspective. Okay, so this is the meet plan of Thomas, I think about a year ago, and we're going to take the squat. The squat warm-ups. Okay, so at that time Thomas would open with 222.5 kilos. We're going to talk in kilos because most of the meets are actually going to be in kilos, but it's automatically going to also convert in pounds. So he would have his last warm-up set 205, 175, 150, 120, 70 and the bar low. Okay, so let's presume you're in a situation in which you don't have 30 minutes to warm up. You have only 15 minutes to warm up. Okay, so what do you do? So we're going to try and condense the warm up down to 4 warm up sets. We have 6 warm up sets here, including the bar. And we're going to try and condense things down in 3 warm up sets. Okay, so whenever I'm looking at an opener and whenever I'm actually looking at the top set in training, the first thing that I'm actually asking myself when it comes to the warm-ups is what is the way that can actually prepare me for this load. Okay, so if we're opening with 222.5, anywhere around as an opener, anywhere around, let's say 5% to even 10% is going to suffice. Now, the closer you get to your third attempt, the jumps have to be a little bit more close to that weight, at least on the squat. So I'm going to take this number and I'm going to try and multiply it by 0. Let's go with 9. Okay, that is a 10% jump. Okay. So the last warm-up set would be 200 kilos or 441 pounds. Okay, 441 to 490 sounds like a reasonable jump. We should be in a good place. After that, I'm going to ask myself, what is the weight that can actually prepare me for 200 kilos? Okay, so Thomas had a 175, 150, 120. I think a middle ground would be a 150. Okay, so that would be 50 kilo jump, and we can have the let's say the second warm-up set just 100 kilos. Okay, so you're doing the bar alone, you're putting 100 kilos, you're doing 150, you're doing 200. You probably will feel that 200 on your back. You can potentially do something like a 120 to something like a 160. I think that's a little bit more reasonable. You would only have like a 40 kilo jump. And if you were in a situation which you had to pretty much do that in 3 warm-up sets, well, you can just take the bar alone out of the the context, do something like 3 repetitions. You're just jumping to 160, doing 2 repetitions. You're just grabbing the 200 for 1 repetition, and you should be in a good spot to actually open with 225. Okay, now on the opposite spectrum, let's try and see what would happen if we were in a situation in which we have to extend our warm-up time. Okay, so the easy way around it is just making, smaller jumps. Okay, so something like 70, 100, 120, 140, 160, 180, and 200. Okay, so you pretty much have everything. You can even be a little bit more aggressive from 140 to 160. You can actually take something like 170, 190, and after that, a 205 in here. Okay. Now, let's say you're actually following the plan, okay, and you are within something like the third warm-up set. But after that, you realize that, oh shit, I have like 30 more minutes. So, like, I have a lot of freaking time. What am I going to do? So, the easy way around it is to just repeat some warm-ups. So, for example, I would recommend to repeat the second to last warm-up instead of actually having the last warm-up, or, anywhere around closer to the first warm-up. Okay, no need to repeat it. It would just throw you off. So you would just take some longer breaks in between, and you would just repeat, for example, 175, 175. You can even do that 3 times. And just before jumping on the meat, do the 205, and you should be ready for your opener. So these are just a few ideas about how to pivot around if you're in a situation which you have to either shorten or lengthen the meet plan. It's always, a workaround. The important thing is to make sure that that last warm-up is actually close enough to your opener, but not far enough to actually shock your central nervous system, and be in a situation which you might actually lose the comp specificity and have some minor faults on technique. So I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions in regard to that, just shoot it in the comment section and I'm going to answer it. Have a good one.